Well, I think the original inspiration for Torn Banner really came from going to the Hollywood movies and seeing how intensely, how emotional they make those scenes. And how do we make games give you that experience in multiplayer? That was a big part of us. We want to make players feel like they go on this epic journey, and that came across Chivalry, the stages that you do that. And for No More Room in Hell, we wanted to do that as well, but obviously with classic horror reference.
Cinematic experience, feeling like you're present in and amongst the action that's occurring.
Grabbing the player by their neck, right, and making sure that they feel, that it feels like being in that zombie apocalypse, making you feel present and grounded in the world.
I've always fantasized about the experience of what would it be like to actually go through those experiences with friends and really, you know, experience that horror, but then that survival aspect and, you know, the victory of survival.
That's what we tried to do with No More Room in Hell 2, is really have you start alone in the dark, and you have to find your friends, you have to find all of your equipment, and that journey the player goes on is them overcoming the horror of the experience.
The world has been transformed by this disaster. You're confronted with all these fates, like the soldier by the checkpoint or the ranger in the woods, like all these fates of real people that were touched by this calamity.
You're always vulnerable. And the world reflects this, but you as a player, like your character is always vulnerable, you know? Even as you become empowered, you are still fragile, you're still in danger all the time. Anything could happen to any of these characters. You don't know who's gonna make it out alive, right?
And these characters are your friends. Their characters are permanently on the line.
But I think exactly that's where permadeath comes in, right? Where we wanted to make sure that this is really a game where it's not standard for everyone to survive, just like in the zombie films, right? Like some casualties will happen, and we don't know. Is it going to be me? Is it going to be you? And that tension and the tragedy ultimately between, like in the player group, was important to capture.
It is a zombie game, but it actually plays a lot more like a zombie movie, a horror movie, and that's what the kind of core premise of the whole thing is. And I think when we combined permadeath with co-op, that gets you a really interesting situation where you do rely on other people for something that matters.
It was about the journey that these people were experiencing, and that was the sort of lesson we wanted to, like every map in the game, we wanted to have that feeling.
From an environmental standpoint, what I love about the genre is just that lens you look through and how the world has been affected and transformed.
It's not just about your own survival, but the world as we know it falling apart. And the power plant as a source ultimately for a lot of what makes our modern society was a strong symbol and sort of a signal for, what's at stake.
And I think one of the exciting things for me about the project is that it's an active apocalypse. So the stakes are still live, they're still dynamically playing out. The stakes are in the player's hands. You know, do you save Pennsylvania? That's the first question with the power plant. We don't know yet how broad the scale of this has gone. In the first map, we're still learning all of that. It's happening, unfolding right now.
The player will glean and absorb information as they move through that map. And then as we expand on the game and more maps come in, you will learn more, and we will build on this narrative, and there'll be more detail there that really fleshes out this world.
I think one of the privileges that we have in this time of developing games is just how strong technology is, and Unreal 5 that we're using is getting us much closer to realizing environments that have the density and fidelity that you would experience in films. So my dream of cinematic immersion is getting closer and closer, like we're touching that cloth.
It gives us a lot of flavors to play with, right? We can have scenes or moments that focus on horror, moments that focus on terror and tragedy, and all of
different ways those manifest
are involved in the fall of humanity, or the potential fall.
Being able to put players into that, into that context of the ongoing apocalypse and living through that and going through the range of emotions that someone in that moment would live through, I think that's what I'm most excited about.
The experience the player will go through, what they'll have to take themselves to overcome the zombie conflict, and how the zombie's power will grow in conflict with your own team and your own abilities. I think the intersection between those things is going to be something that keeps the pace and the excitement constantly high, partly through tension and then partly through action, and the blend of tension and action.
I'm looking most forward to is being able to play with these ideas of locations and situations and really give that cinematic simulation to the player.
For all four of us, the common theme there is deliver an immersive and compelling experience that hits all the notes of our favorite cinematic experiences.